I've acquired one of each year, and I don't plan on selling any of my short wheelbase cars. They all are keepers for me. I've owned this car for 3.5, 4 years. It's a sentimental car for me. I love every time I get behind the wheel. I love the experience that it gives to me, and it is one of those special cars. Short wheelbase cars, they are the beginning of the 911. Without the 64, everything we've shown, driven and discussed may not have evolved the way it did. So those cars, it's the beginning of the breed. They're the most nimble, I feel. They're the lightest car. They're the most responsive car. And this 65 911 here just sort of sums up everything I just described about what is great about a short wheelbase Porsche. And driven at the limit, they move around, and it's a really exciting experience behind the wheel. So my 65 911 Brumos Jacksonville car will be staying in this garage for quite some time. Well, this car's pretty special. It's the 310th 911 ever made. It was basically assembled in 64, completed in 65. And I was on a quest, like many of my quests, to chase down one of every year. And this I heard about through a friend of a friend. The car was actually located in North Carolina. And the particular story with this 65 911, car number 300-310, was pretty interesting. It was a car that I chased for about 6 months. It was never officially for sale, but I made contact with the owner and started up a conversation, and a deal was struck. And that was how I acquired the car. It wasn't until I received the car and actually received the certificate that the prior owner gave to me from Porsche. He hadn't actually mentioned that it was delivered to Brumos. And he'd acquired a certificate of authenticity from Porsche, and it showed that the car was originally ordered and delivered to Brumos in Jacksonville, Florida, March 25th, 1965. So not only was it a really, really early car, the Brumos connection made it really, really special to me. As you know, Porsche made 232 cars in 1964. This is car number 310, so by my math, what is that? 78 cars after the 64 911. So at the time, there was Brundage Motors, which became Brumos when Peter Gregg took it over, right around this period of time. There was Max Hoffman, there was Stoddard, and I think there were maybe 1 or 2 other Porsche dealer importers here in the States. So if that was car number 68 worldwide, how many could have been imported into the States? Maybe half of that amount? How many could Brumos have brought in? I speculate that this is probably one of the first half a dozen 911s that was imported to Brumos. And to my little bit of understanding and research, it could be the oldest surviving Brumos imported Porsche 911. So that just made the icing on the cake even more special. Well, anyone that's into Porsche understands Brumos race history, Hurley Haywood, and just the whole connection that that Brumos has had racing Porsches and being a Porsche dealer for, 50 years. So, Brumos is a piece of Porsche history. It's a piece of Porsche racing history, and that is a early delivered Brumos 911. Plus, I've always been a fan of the Brumos red, white, and blue stripe. I suppose it ties into my love of all things Americana, Evel Knievel, Captain America, Stars and Stripes, red, white, and blue. So, to me, it's just my little connection to Brumos. And that to me is it's one of the many reasons why I like the car. When I received the car, I knew it was a very early car. It actually had a few things that I changed straight away. It had a fiberglass S front bumper. It actually, believe it or not, did have a ducktail on it. It was running incorrect sort of size wheels, and it had some deco trim on the rear bumpers. To recap on what I did, I pulled out the incorrect seats, sourced a set of early Shield leather seats where I replaced the corduroy interiors with some houndstooth fabric that we used to make clothing out of. I sourced one of my favorite thick leather rimmed Jackie Stewart steering wheels from the 70s that's got tons of patina. Took off the deco trim, put it on a set of 5.5 and deep 6 Fuchs, which are actually from a 67 or 68 911. So in a sense, they're not period correct for the car. But this to me was not all about a period correct car like my Irish Green car is. This to me is more what I like to call the sort of Vic Elford style, lightweight, cafe racer, Monte Carlo rally, sport purpose car, where you notice, you know, it doesn't have any of the front deco trim, no side deco trim, no rear deco trim. Doesn't have the front chrome bumperettes. It's lowered slightly, I did lower it. So I was sort of going for more of a sport purpose look. But I've still yet to do any suspension or motor work on it other than replacing the heat exchangers and stock muffler with a set of 1.5-inch headers and a Dansk cut down twin pipe pea shooter sport muffler. It gives it a really racy, raspy, revvy, throaty sort of sound, which is addictive when you're thrashing through the canyons, running up to red line, you know, doing 6,000 RPM shifts, and hearing that sort of ricochet sound echo off the canyon walls is, you know, spoke about it earlier on, but it's one of those, you know, sensory elements that's great about driving any 911, especially a nimble, lightweight, short wheelbase car. You know, at that time of the day, it's sort of a magical moment because you're in your own little cocoon. You know, it's you, the 911, and the sound of that raspy motor bouncing off those canyon walls and heading down the canyon. The sun was going down, there was that orange glow in the night. The road was getting slightly dark. It's just another return on a great adventure. You know, a nice road trip, but just the joy to actually get behind the wheel of your favorite 911, experience everything it has to offer to the limits that you set on yourself. And that is the true joy of owning and driving a classic early 911.